Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Nobody cares how hard your life is. Nobody cares about your excuses, your pain, your struggle, or your story. Because the world doesn't pay you for what you've been through. It pays you for what you do with it. Every single person has a reason to quit, but the ones who win, they stopped waiting for someone to care. They started caring enough about themselves to take control. You want success. You want respect. You want freedom. Then stop looking for sympathy and start building your strength. Because here's the truth. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. There will be days when you're tired, when nobody believes in you, when your effort goes unnoticed. That's when you remind yourself nobody cares. Work harder. Because when the lights are out, nobody's clapping for you. That's when champions are made. So tonight I want you to stay with me. Because by the end of this message, you'll understand something powerful. You don't need applause. You don't need approval. You just need discipline, hunger, and an unbreakable mindset. You ready for that? Let me tell you something that might sting a little at first, but it's the truth you need to hear. The world doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care how unfair your situation is or how much effort you almost gave. The world rewards results, not reasons. We live in a time where people are addicted to sympathy. Everyone wants to be understood. Everyone wants someone to feel sorry for them. Everyone wants to explain why they didn't make it. But here's the reality. You can have reasons or you can have results. You can't have both. You see, pain and challenges are universal. Every single person you look up to, every high performer, every so-called overnight success, they've all faced rejection, setbacks, heartbreaks, moments where quitting seemed easier. The only difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't make pain their identity. They used it as fuel. While most people are busy talking about how hard life is, the top 1% are busy doing something about it. The truth is, nobody's coming to save you. No one's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I see you trying. Let me make it easier for you. No, the world moves too fast for that. People are caught up in their own lives, their own problems, their own battles. And that's not cool. That's reality. The moment you accept that truth, you gain power. Because when you stop waiting for someone to care, you start realizing you're responsible for everything in your life, your growth, success, your happiness. Think about it. How many times have you held yourself back because you were waiting for someone to notice your effort? You gave your all, but when no one clapped for you, you started doubting yourself. You started slowing down. You started believing maybe it wasn't worth it. But that's where you go wrong, because it's never about who's watching. It's about who you're becoming. The applause doesn't matter. The progress does. You can spend your life chasing recognition, or you can spend it building results that demand recognition. When you shift from needing validation to focusing on execution, everything changes. You stop being emotionally reactive. You stop depending on motivation. You start moving with purpose. Because when you understand that no one's obligated to believe in your dream, that it's your job to prove it, you take back your power. And let me tell you, it's liberating. It's liberating to stop expecting people to understand your struggle, because the truth is they can't. They weren't there for the sleepless nights. They didn't feel the anxiety, the fear, the pressure. They didn't walk your path. Only you did. Stop trying to explain your grind to people who'll never get it. Just do the work. Let the results explain it for you. There's a story I once heard about a man who trained every morning at 4 a.m. rain or shine. He never posted it. He never bragged about it. And when people asked him why he worked so hard when nobody was watching, he said, because I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for who I'm becoming. That's it. That's the essence of success. The invisible work creates visible greatness. When you finally accept that nobody owes you anything, not attention, not understanding, not validation, you become unstoppable. You stop taking things personally. You stop waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect conditions. You realize success is a private decision long before it's a public event. And once you make that decision, truly make it, everything in your life starts shifting. You stop whining and start winning. So if you feel like you've been overlooked, ignored, underappreciated, good. Let that fire burn inside you. Don't run from it. Use it. Let that silence be the gym where your mindset grows stronger. Let every no, every rejection, every unnoticed effort push you harder, sharper, hungrier. Because one day when the world finally sees what you've built, you'll know it wasn't luck. It wasn't sympathy. It was you. You didn't wait for someone to care. You cared enough to rise. You cared enough to show up. You cared enough to do the work when no one was clapping. That's how legends are made. That's how greatness is born. In the quiet, in the grind, in the dark, when nobody's watching. Because when you stop seeking comfort and start demanding more from yourself, you tap into something unbreakable. This isn't about being heartless. It's about being fearless. It's about owning your reality, refusing to play the victim, committing to your future with everything you've got. You don't need people to care. You just need to care enough to outwork every excuse standing in your way. So remember this. Every time you feel invisible, every time you feel like no one sees your effort, every time life feels unfair, smile, because that's your moment. That's the test. And when that voice inside whispers, nobody cares, you look it right in the eye and say, exactly, that's why I work harder. Pain is life's greatest teacher. but only if you're willing to listen. Everyone wants success, but nobody wants the struggle that forges it. We all want the outcome, but we try to skip the process. The truth is, pain isn't here to destroy you. It's here to develop you. Every setback, every disappointment, every sleepless night where you wondered if you'd ever make it, those moments aren't punishment. They're preparation. Difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck is simple. The ones who grow stop running from their pain and start using it as fuel. See, when life hits you hard, and it will, you've got two choices. You can sit there and ask, why me? Or you can stand up and ask, what is this trying to teach me? The first question keeps you powerless. The second one gives you purpose. Pain is feedback. It's life's way of showing you where you need to get stronger. You need to grow where you've been playing small. But most people take that feedback and make it their identity. They let it define them instead of refine them. They tell their story from the wound instead of the wisdom. But the truth is, your pain can become your greatest advantage if you start seeing it as a curse and start seeing it as a calling. Because the people who have suffered deeply are the ones capable of feeling deeply. And when you can feel deeply, you can connect deeply, lead deeply, love deeply, create deeply. Pain stretches the human spirit. It reveals what's inside you when everything comfortable is stripped away. I've met people who turned heartbreak into leadership, rejection into direction, failure into foundation. Not because life suddenly became fair, but because they decided to make meaning out of what broke them. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what it means to you. That one decision, that shift from victim to warrior, that's the line that separates the weak from the unstoppable. When you start using your pain, everything changes. The heartbreak that once crushed you becomes the reason you understand love at a deeper level. The failure that once embarrassed you becomes the reason you refuse to quit. The rejection that once made you feel small becomes the reason you rise. Because you realize all that pain was shaping you for the moment you're in right now. Pain doesn't come to take your strength, it comes to reveal it. You don't even know how powerful you are until you've been tested. Think about it. A muscle only grows through resistance. A sword is only sharpened through friction. Diamonds are only formed under pressure. Why would your life be any different? Every moment that hurt you was carving something inside you. It was building your character, your resilience, your focus. But most people never realize that because they keep trying to escape the process. They numb the pain instead of facing it. They distract themselves instead of learning from it. Pain ignored is pain repeated. Until you deal with it, it will keep showing up in new forms, new failures, new frustrations, new fears. The moment you stop running from it and start owning it, you break the cycle. You transform your pain from your enemy into your ally. You might not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that heartbreak, that loss, that rejection, it had a purpose. It made you tougher. It made you sharper. It made you more compassionate, more grounded, more real. Without it, you wouldn't be who you are. You wouldn't have the hunger, the drive, the fire that pushes you today. So stop asking for an easy life. Ask for the strength to handle a hard one. Because the easy path never made anyone extraordinary. Comfort doesn't build champions. Pain does. When you understand that, you stop feeling sorry for yourself. You stop comparing your struggle to someone else's success. You realize your pain is personal. It's handcrafted for your growth. And the moment you embrace it, you take control of your story. There's a powerful shift that happens when you start to say, this pain is not happening to me. It's happening for me. That's the moment your entire energy changes. You stop being reactive and you become intentional. You stop wasting time blaming others and you start focusing on becoming better. You turn your wounds into wisdom, your fears into focus, and your failures into foundations. It's not about pretending pain doesn't hurt. Of course it does. But pain only has power over you when you let it. When you face it, when you confront it, you decide to grow through it. That's when it transforms. You stop feeling like a victim of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. And that's where real freedom begins. So whatever you're going through right now, the loss, the rejection, the uncertainty, don't waste it. Don't hide from it. Don't numb it. Feel it, face it, learn from it. Then use it, because pain is energy and energy is power. And when you direct that power with purpose, there's nothing you can't overcome. Remember this, your pain is not your prison, it's your platform. Motivation is a beautiful thing, but it's unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. You feel fired up one day, unstoppable, ready to take on the world, and the next day you wake up tired, distracted, and you don't feel like doing anything. That's the problem with relying on motivation. It's built on emotion. And emotions are temporary. If you only work when you feel like it, you'll never build momentum. Success doesn't come from moments of inspiration. It comes from patterns of discipline. Discipline is doing what you said you would do long after the feeling that made you say it has disappeared. That's what separates high achievers from everyone else. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not perfect timing, it's consistency. It's the willingness to show up again, even when no one's watching, even when you're tired, even when it feels like nothing's working. Because the truth is, the greatest things in life are built in the moments you don't feel like showing up. Everybody wants the reward, but few want the routine. Everyone dreams of success, but few are willing to endure the boredom that success requires. Because let's be honest, Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. It's not a highlight reel. It's repetition. It's saying no to distractions, no to laziness, no to comfort. It's doing the same small things every day that nobody notices until one day everyone does. And that's the thing. You'll never rise to the level of your goals. You'll fall to the level of your standards. Your standards are the invisible boundaries that define how far you'll go. Motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you moving when the excitement fades. You can't build a strong life on feelings. You build it on habits, systems, negotiables. Discipline is about deciding once and following through 1,000 times. Think about an athlete. They don't train because they feel like it every morning. They train because they've built a standard for themselves. They've trained their mind to do it no matter what. They've removed the option to quit. When you eliminate the option to negotiate with yourself, you win the mental battle. Because let's face it, your mind will always look for the easy way out, will always try to protect you from discomfort. But growth lives in discomfort. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Most people are controlled by their emotions. They act based on what they feel. But disciplined people, they act based on what they decided. That's a huge difference because your feelings will tell you to stop, but your purpose will tell you to keep going. The key is to build habits so strong that they take over when motivation fails. You create rituals, structure, and accountability. Your success becomes automatic. You don't need to think, you just do. That's why discipline is freedom. People think discipline is restriction, but it's the opposite. When you're disciplined, you're free from chaos, you're free from procrastination, free from guilt, free from regret. You move with clarity and control because you're not depending on how you feel. You're depending on who you are. No longer a prisoner of your emotions, you're a master of your actions. But here's the hard truth. Discipline hurts at first. It's uncomfortable. Your brain will resist it. Your body will fight it. You'll have days when you question if it's worth it. But that's where growth happens, right past that point of resistance. Every time you push through when you don't feel like it, you're rewiring your brain for success. You're teaching yourself that your word means something, that your commitment matters. And when that becomes who you are, everything changes. You stop needing to hype yourself up. You stop waiting for inspiration. You become the kind of person who does what's required, not what's convenient. And when that becomes your identity, results become inevitable. Because now, discipline isn't something you do. It's who you are. There's a simple rule I live by, Ain. If it's important, you do it whether you feel like it or not. That's the mindset that builds winners. That's the mindset that creates momentum. Because let's be honest, feelings fade, but habits compound. You can't rely on fleeting emotion to carry you through a lifetime of goals. You need structure. You need repetition. You need to master the art of doing the work, especially on the days you don't want to. Is full of talented people who never made it because they lack discipline. But I've never met a disciplined person who didn't make progress. Discipline guarantees results. It may not be fast, it may not be flashy, but it's inevitable. Because success doesn't come to the most motivated, it comes to the most consistent. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect timing, the perfect plan. Just show up again and again every single day. Because that's how greatness is built, not in bursts of excitement, but in the quiet repetition of daily discipline. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize it wasn't motivation that changed your life. It was discipline. Everyone talks about talent like it's the secret ingredient, like success belongs only to the chosen few who were born gifted. But the truth is, talent might open the door, yet it's effort, relentless, unshakable effort, that keeps it open. The people who rise to the top aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who simply refuse to stop. They outwork everyone else. They stay longer, push harder, give more when everyone else is done. Effort is the great equalizer. It's what turns ordinary people into extraordinary performers. You see, most people have limits in their minds, imaginary ceilings that they've built based on what they think they can handle. They push until it gets uncomfortable and then they stop. But the truth is, your real potential lives far beyond that comfort zone. You just have to be willing to go there. You have to be willing to do what others won't, to show up earlier, stay later, and demand more from yourself than anyone else ever could. That's how champions are made. Effort is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up again, even when progress feels invisible. The people who succeed aren't those who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to let failure define them. They understand that every setback is a setup for a comeback, that every no is just a test of endurance. Because here's the thing, when you outwork everyone around you, life eventually has no choice but to reward you. We'll live in a world where everyone wants shortcuts. Everyone's looking for the fastest path, the easy win, the quick hack. But shortcuts create short-lived success. If you skip the grind, you skip the growth. If you avoid the hard work, you rob yourself of the strength that comes from earning it. You can't fake effort. You can post about it, you can talk about it, but when it's time to perform, the truth shows. Hard work doesn't lie. It exposes who's prepared and who's pretending. And here's what's beautiful about effort. It's completely within your control. You might not control the economy, your circumstances, or the timing of opportunities, but you control your grind. You control how hard you push. You control how you respond when things get hard. Effort is the one thing that can't be taken from you. It's your personal advantage in a world where most people are lazy, distracted, and inconsistent. Think about the greatest athletes, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most impactful leaders. Yes, they have talent, but what separates them isn't their natural ability. It's their hunger. It's the way they attack the day like it's their last. Others are sleeping, they're working. While others are making excuses, they're finding solutions. They're not competing with others. They're competing with the version of themselves they were yesterday. That's the mindset of someone who outworks the world. You've got to reach a point where you start being impressed by talent and start being obsessed with effort. Because talent without discipline fades fast, but effort compounds. It builds character, builds skill, it builds resilience. When you put in the work day after day, you don't just get better at what you do, you get stronger inside. You start trusting yourself. You start realizing that no matter what happens, you can depend on your own grit. And that kind of confidence, the kind that comes from work you've earned, no one can take that from you. But let me tell you the truth about hard work. It's lonely. Will be nights when it's just you and your grind. No applause, no recognition, just silence. That's the space where most people quit. But that's exactly where you need to lean in, because those are the moments that separate the dreamers from the doers. That's where your character is forged, when you're tired, when no one's watching, when it feels like it's not paying off. That's the moment that defines you. You've got to decide what kind of person you want to be. Do you want it to be the one who talks about potential or the one who fulfills it? Because potential is meaningless without execution, is full of talented people who never became anything more than a story of what could have been. But the ones who outwork the rest, they're the ones who turn potential into proof. They're the ones who take their dreams and make them visible through effort. It's not about working endlessly just to burn out. It's about working intentionally, pushing your limits with purpose. When you understand your why, your work ethic becomes unstoppable. You no longer work to impress others, you work because it's who you are. You work because excellence is your standard, because mediocrity makes you uncomfortable, because you've decided that no one will out-hustle you. That's the secret. You don't need to be the smartest, the strongest, or the most talented. You just need to be the one who refuses to stop, the one who shows up when others quit, the one who keeps going when everyone else gets tired. Because in the end, it's not the gifted who rise, it's the relentless. So if you want to separate yourself from the crowd, if you want to build something that lasts, there's only one rule. We live in a time where everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be noticed, validated, liked, followed. It's almost become an addiction. People chase attention instead of achievement. But here's the truth: attention fades, results last. When you focus on getting attention, you burn out trying to impress people who don't actually matter. When you focus on progress, you build something that speaks for itself. The problem today is that too many people want to look successful before they are successful. They want the image without the effort, the reputation without the results. But real power doesn't come from what you post. It comes from what you practice. Progress is silent. It happens in the dark. It happens in the hours when no one's clapping for you, when no one's watching, when you're the only one who believes in what you're doing. That's where the real growth takes place. You don't need to broadcast your every move. You don't need to tell the world how hard you're working. The world will see it when it's time. Let your results make the noise, because when you chase progress, you're free. You're not performing for approval. You're focused on improvement. You're not worried about looking the part. You're becoming the part. Every time you pick progress over attention, you're telling yourself that your purpose matters more than your popularity. And that decision, that quiet, disciplined decision, is what separates the average from the unstoppable. You see, attention is like sugar. It feels good in the moment. It doesn't last. Progress, on the other hand, is like nourishment. It builds strength over time. It compounds. It's what gives you the power to keep going when no one is cheering you on. The danger of chasing attention is that it makes you dependent on the reaction of others. You start working for likes instead of legacy. You start measuring your worth based on how people respond instead of how much you've grown. That's a trap, because the moment people stop clapping, your motivation disappears. But when you're driven by progress, you don't need applause. The process itself becomes the reward. You wake up excited, not because people are watching, because you know you're better than you were yesterday. I've seen people destroy their potential because they were too focused on looking busy instead of actually being productive. They wanted to be known more than they wanted to be great. Greatness doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself through consistency, through mastery, through quiet excellence. People who truly make it, the ones who build things that last, they're too busy working to worry about who's watching. They let their actions speak so loud that the world can't ignore them. Think about it. The real winners, people who change the game, you rarely hear them talking about what they're going to do. They're too focused doing it. They're not concerned with image. They're obsessed with improvement. They understand that progress doesn't need an audience. It needs commitment. It needs patience. It needs belief when no one else believes. And when you stay committed long enough, something incredible happens. your work begins to speak for you. You no longer have to chase validation. It comes naturally because people can't deny results. That's the power of progress. It builds credibility. It builds confidence. It builds momentum. Attention can make you look good for a moment. Progress makes you unstoppable for life. Here's the truth. Nobody remembers who looked successful. They remember who became successful. Nobody talks about who posted the most. They talk about who performed the best. Nobody respects the noise. They respect the results. The people who are remembered, the ones who leave a mark, are the ones who stayed focused long after others got distracted chasing attention. When you focus on progress, you start living on a different frequency. You stop comparing. You stop competing for validation. You start creating from a place of purpose. You stop asking, who's watching me, and start asking, who am I becoming? Because that's what truly matters. The person you become will always be more important than the attention you receive. And that's the shift you need to make from performance to purpose, from noise to growth. The grind doesn't need to be seen, it needs to be done. Results will take care of the visibility. If you keep showing up, if you keep growing, if you keep moving forward, eventually your results will be so undeniable that even the people who doubted you will have to pay attention. Stop chasing the spotlight. Build something worth shining light on, because attention may get you noticed. Progress will make you unforgettable. There's a level you reach in life where you stop asking people to notice you. You make it impossible for them to ignore you. That's what happens when you commit to mastery. You stop chasing validation and start chasing excellence. When you decide that good enough isn't good enough anymore. Because the truth is the world doesn't pay for average. It doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards exceptional. It rewards the person willing to stay when everyone else leaves, to refine when everyone else relaxes, to demand more from themselves when others settle. You've got to become obsessed with your craft, not in a surface level motivational way, in a real, deep, unshakable way. The kind of obsession that keeps you learning, improving, and pushing boundaries long after the applause stops. When you get to that level, you don't have to shout about what you do. Your results, your energy, your consistency, they speak for you. People can feel it when someone has put in the work. They can sense authenticity. You can't fake excellence. It's the byproduct of years of focused effort. Most people dabble, they touch things lightly, they start strong, then drift when it gets hard. But the ones who rise, they go deep. They don't chase 10 things halfway. They master one thing completely. They understand that mastery isn't about doing more. It's about doing better. It's about going further into the details, the repetition, the refinement that others overlook. Because success isn't built on big moments. It's built on thousands of small, unseen moments where you could have quit, but didn't. You've got to learn to love the grind, love the process, love the repetition that mastery requires. It's not glamorous, but it's sacred. Every time you practice, every time you refine, every time you push a little harder, you're not just building skill, you're building identity. You're becoming the person who deserves the success you dream about. That's what separates you. Not the outcome, the standard you hold yourself to when no one's watching. When you become great at what you do, you don't need to talk about it. The world will feel it. You don't need to chase people's respect. Your work will command it. You don't need to explain your value. Your results will prove it. That's the quiet confidence of someone who's mastered their game. It's not arrogance, it's assurance. You know who you are because you've paid the price to be that person. Make no mistake, mastery has a price. It demands sacrifice. It demands focus. It demands saying no to distractions, no to comfort, no to mediocrity. It means working when you're tired, studying when you're uninspired, staying curious when you already know a lot. It's giving your best when no one's asking for it, because excellence isn't a performance. It's a habit. The ones who master their field don't wait to be motivated. They've made mastery their identity. You'll have people doubt you, overlook you, underestimate you. Let them, that's part of the process. Every great performer, every visionary, every leader started as someone who wasn't taken seriously. They didn't waste energy proving people wrong. They spent it becoming undeniable. That's the mindset that changes everything. When you stop trying to convince and start committing to growth, you take control of your future. Because sooner or later, skill becomes too obvious to ignore. You have to understand you don't rise to excellence overnight. You build it brick by brick, day by day, decision by decision. You show up when it's boring. You refine when it's repetitive. You stay when it's hard. And then one day you cross the threshold, you look back and realize you've built something that can't be questioned, something that stands on its own. That's the beauty of mastery. It doesn't need marketing. It doesn't need hype. It just is. When you become so good they can't ignore you, life opens up in ways you can't imagine. Opportunities find you. People seek you out. Doors that used to be locked suddenly open, not because you beg it, because you earned it. That's what mastery does. It creates leverage. It turns your effort into influence. It gives you the power to choose, to lead, to inspire. Here's the truth. You'll never reach that level if you keep settling for good enough. You've got to demand more of yourself than anyone else would ever expect. You've got to be the kind of person who refuses to do the bare minimum. Because excellence isn't about beating others, it's about outgrowing yourself. Every day you ask, how can I get better? Not, how can I look better? or how can I get noticed? But how can I become better? That's the question that transforms your life. When you live like that, when you train, learn, create, perform with that kind of intention, you don't need to chase validation anymore. The world starts to see it. You start to become the example. Your energy shifts. Your presence speaks before you do. You become undeniable. So stop waiting to be discovered. Stop asking for permission. Become so good they can't ignore you.